Frank W. Klepser was born on January 30th, 1893, in Altoona, Pennsylvania, to Harry and Minnie. He had two younger siblings named Ruth and John would actually go on to serve during World War I too, but I don't know if he went overseas or if he was just stationed at home. The only thing I do know is that John was in Company B at the 10th Pennsylvania, which they're going to get mentioned in a little bit. He attended the Adams School, which I'm assuming the other two do. The other two did too, because the building still stands. It's not a school anymore. The school district uses it as their maintenance slash central supply building. But I mean, it's a big building, so I don't know what exactly they consider central supply, but it's a fairly big building, and there's above the one doorway it says Adams and it says 1890, so the building was 3 years older than John, so I'm not sure exactly how age was and how it goes, but fairly new building. His siblings came a couple years after him, so I'd say his siblings went through the Adams School too. And then, of course, he attended Altoona High School, and I couldn't find anything that said if he did or didn't graduate. So I'm going to assume he graduated, but I can't be sure. I'm going to say he graduated. Just err on the side of caution and say he graduated, and he would serve in his father's milling business for a while. On May 5th, 1917, he would join the Army, and he would be inducted at Fort Slocum in New York before he was sent up to Syracuse. Now, whenever he got inducted, we had just gotten involved in World War I, but we also had a problem with Scarlet Fever, like that. We had an outbreak of Scarlet Fever. So he was sent up to Syracuse. I'm not sure where. I couldn't find anywhere stated, like if he was in a hospital, where he was at in Syracuse. But because of the Scarlet Fever outbreak and him being part of the medical corps, instead of being sent overseas to help wounded and dying soldiers over there, he was just sent up to Syracuse to take care of Scarlet Fever patients. Now, this is where a lot of people can be like, well, why should I get the COVID shot? Look, this didn't help Frank, but Frank had gotten the vaccine for Scarlet Fever. But they must have just given him the shot because his body hadn't built up an immunity to it yet. So they literally had to have given him the shot and thrown him into a room full of Scarlet Fever patients. I don't know if they thought vaccines worked automatically, if they were just that desperate to get help for these people, but that's what they did. They gave him the shot and threw him in, didn't care if his body had immunity or not, which makes me wonder with all the doctors you hear about that would catch certain diseases when there's a cure for it, or like there's a vaccine for it. It makes me wonder if that's what it was, that they were given a vaccine and just tossed in before their bodies could build up immunity. So, because he didn't have an immunity to it yet, he was dealing with these people, and probably obviously going to breathe in the same air that people are coughing and God knows what else. He would, like I said, he would catch it, and he would linger for a few days before finally succumbing to it on September 5th. And I do believe from the one military record that I saw, I think it was something like his heart finally gave out. So he would pass on September 5th, and his body would be sent home. Now, they would hold a funeral for him at Stevens Mortuary on September 8th, but there was a law going on that stated that you could not have, kind of like, I don't know if the rules have changed now that we got more and more people getting the COVID vaccine, or if it stayed the same. But I'm pretty sure, I do believe they told families during the initial outbreak that if their loved one died from COVID, they were not allowed to view their bodies. Like, they could have a funeral, but they weren't allowed to have their body physically there, and that was the same case with Frank. There was a law that if somebody passed away from Scarlet Fever, you could not have their body on display. So there was a funeral, but nobody could go up to Frank's body and say goodbye. He is buried at Oak Ridge Cemetery, and he's in Section G, plot number 149. His brother, Company B of the 10th Pennsylvania, would actually hold a military give him his military honors. I don't know if it's because his brother was in it, if they volunteered to do it to show support, or if they just somehow luck of the draw got picked to do it. But his brother, I can't imagine losing my brother and then having to go through that whole ceremony, like that whole thing. Like, I'm assuming what they mean by military honors is the 21 gun salute and the folding up with the flag. Because I've seen, like, not the 21 gun salute part, because we had it inside, but my paternal grandmother's one brother had passed away from cancer, and he was in the Marines, and they did that for him. They got a recording, it played taps, had a recording of 21 gun salute, and then they folded up the flag and gave his flag to his ex-wife because they had children together, and it would just be easier for them to be able to see a picture of their father and see the flag. My paternal grandfather got the same thing. He got cremated and he didn't have a funeral service. So they didn't do the military. They didn't really do the military honors, but the funeral home was nice enough to give my grandmother a flag to take home. So, like, that's why I said I've seen how emotional it can get. So I couldn't imagine having to go to my brother's funeral. I can't see his body to say goodbye, and I have to either myself or one of my friends, because I'm assuming he probably made friends in that company, has to fold up the flag, walk over, try to comfort my family, and then hand the flag over. And I know some of you are going to say, oh, well, if the vaccine didn't work for Frank, then why should I get it? Like I said, he hadn't built up an immunity. We had at my apartment last year, we had a slight case of COVID. Like, I might have caught it, I'm not sure. At home test said I didn't have it, but I got the shot back in September 2021. So that screws up the home test. But my boyfriend and our one friend that lived in the apartment before us at the time, she had it. I mean, her boyfriend didn't have it, but he's in the military. And just like Frank, it's one of those things, he was made to get the COVID shot. And he doesn't really work with the public. He worked with other military, like, his job, he works with other people in the military. So they're all going to have it, and unless their spouse is going to get it, I don't know how easily they would be able to catch it. So he got off a little luckier, because the rest of us, save for my boyfriend because he works a third shift job, the rest of me and our friend actually physically worked with the public. We were face to face with the public. All I got was I was sicker than a dog, couldn't keep anything down for a day, and then I was weak because, like I said, I hadn't been able to keep anything down, so my body was it didn't have anything to give me energy. My boyfriend had full body chills to the point where he was wearing long sleeved everything and had to have every blanket in the house. But our friend, who also did not, like my boyfriend, our friend, also did not have the shot, didn't have the vaccine, and she got a combination of both of us. She got the full body chills and the nausea. So, like I said, I don't want to make people think I'm trying to force them. It's just that's the other side of the coin. Oh, somebody that did get the shot and had built up an immunity by the time they caught it. So, like I said, it's not 100%. I know there's people that are gonna say, "Oh, it works 100%," but I'm gonna tell you, the vaccine, in my experience, doesn't work 100%, but it's going to lessen the effects compared to what I've seen and heard it do to other people. Because one of my former bosses got it and it messed his lungs up. So, and yeah, so that's Frank Klepser. Got other soldiers. I didn't know that there was the public. I don't know if it's a public school system failing us or if it's been that long since I've been in school, but I've been looking on Together We Served to get an idea of how many more soldiers there are, because that separates them by branches and that. And apparently there was a war we were at with the Philippines. I don't know if that's the Spanish-American War. I'm going to look into that because I do have a tab up for soldiers that served during the Spanish-American War. And then I found out apparently there was a war we had with the Philippines. So I gotta look into that and I gotta figure all that out so I can add the soldiers to my list for that. Alright, so on to the next. And this one, right now, the next one's gonna take place during World War II. I do know that. But I gotta try to figure out what's going on with the Spanish American and the Philippine and American wars. Alright. Alright. Thanks. Bye.